First of all, I want to thank God for praying grandmothers. I'm so thankful for mine. That's what we have to do with our kids these days. We start praying for them early and get them in a church. Get them on the right path right off the bat. My grandmother was a great Christian woman. I miss her very much. I wished I'd have spent more time with her before she passed, but I was in my mess doing it. But I know I will see her again. That's the key. That woman would get up 3 or 4 hours on Sunday before church and drive an hour, hour and a half out of her way to go pick up one. That's how much she loved God. Very dedicated woman. And I'm so thankful for her and my grandparents in my life. They was the only ones that we could ever count on. And life was rough, but would have been a lot rougher without them. So God really blessed us with them. I grew up in Columbus, Indiana, where I started off at. We came from a very violent, very chaotic home. No stability. Nothing was good at home. Only time we ever had any peace when we was at our grandparents' house. At my house, if you was fortunate to get to sleep, I remember when I was just second and third grade, first grade, whatever it was. If you was able to get to sleep, that was good. But it was common at my house to be woken up anytime during the night. Might be midnight, 2, 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning. The house getting totally destroyed. Mom getting beaten. That's just the way it was at our house. Nothing was good. I remember when I was a little boy getting beat with a belt till I bled. 3rd grade. And all this fear and stuff at home. It started slowly giving me a real bad attitude. It started to make me hateful at a young age. I'll call him my first stepdad. His name's on my birth certificate, but he's not my dad. I call him Stepdad 1. He had me so scared as a little kid, maybe the size of that little fella. I couldn't even control my bathroom issues at a young age. At school, at home. Couldn't control it. That's how scared I was. And at home, if I had an accident, I'll say accident at home, I remember on my hands and knees in front of the toilet with a couple gallons of bleach poured on my hands, scrub the clothes and the rags. It was terrible. But, and he drank a lot. He was a real mean person. Coward, liked to beat women. They never would go around doing it to other men. It was always the women, kids. But this went on and on till I was, I'm thinking 4th grade. And Mom divorced him. I started running with this crew. Started getting into harder things. Started stealing more. But when I was with these older guys, I felt like I fit in, like I had a purpose. They took care of me, taught me a lot of things that probably shouldn't have. But anyway, like I said, when I was with them, I felt accepted, like I had a place. This kept happening and happening. Kept getting in more trouble with the law, kept progressing on that. So probation got tired of fooling with me, and they sent me and about, 20 of us up to a place in Plainfield, Pendleton Prison up there. They had a program called Scared Straight. They sent a bunch of us up there, and it didn't do any good. We laughed. We thought it was a joke. We thought we were cool. And we weren't nobody, but we thought we were. So the probation officer told my grandmother and my mother, if he don't straighten up, he's almost 18. He'll be in prison real soon. I laughed. I had the attitude I didn't care. And, my grandmother told the probation officer, he said, well, you need to get him into AA a lot. You need to get him into AA. He's kind of making it almost a court order. She told that probation officer, she said, he don't need AA. He needs Jesus. That guy liked to come unglued, you know it. She let him have it, though. And she was right. That was what I needed. Anyway, I kept getting in more and more trouble with the law. And one day, my grandmother went to a revival. She went to a Nazarene church in North Vernon. And she went to a revival one day. She came home, or she got a hold of me, tell me about this wonderful people that was at this revival. They were from a Bible college up north, up between Carmel and Kokomo. It was called Union Bible Seminary. She said they have a high school department and all this and that, and she wanted me to go up there with her and check it out. At this time, I was still in school. I was still in road. I wasn't there a lot, but I was still in road. So I went up there with her one day. And I was wanting to get out of North Vernon anyway. Like I said, I didn't have nothing going on, getting in trouble with the law. I went up there and enrolled in the high school department, lived in a dormitory. I worked for the school to pay my room and board. Had me a couple little part-time jobs up there for extra money. But the main reason I went up there also, I was trying to make my grandmother happy. I loved her very much. Plus, I was wanting to change. I went up there, like I said, enrolled in the high school department. I was staying straight and sober when I was up there during the week. But every weekend, as soon as school was out Friday, I was hitchhiking to North Vernon. I would hitchhike to be a good Christian boy up there all week and go to North Vernon on Friday night, get high, get drunk, chase women, do whatever I wanted to do. And by the time Monday morning came, I would be back at school, being the good Christian boy again. I was being a hypocrite, big time. God don't like hypocrites. This went on the rest of the high school year. Ended up graduating high school. Stayed up there the summer and worked. Weekends still hitchhike home. School started in the fall. I enrolled in college. And honestly, at the time, I didn't want to be there. I was just running from other things. I didn't have nothing else to do, nowhere to go. So I stayed up there still playing this game. Played it till about midterm. And I went to church one night. Well, before that, I was playing the game, like I say, being a hypocrite. And I met a girl there from Florida. Me and her got interested in each other. We had a school picnic one day in Noblesville at the park. Me and her snuck off and had sex. Of course, a couple of weeks later, I got tired of her. Didn't want to deal with her no more. Went on my way, what I was doing. Well, about a month later, I went to church one night. I was going to a church, it was called Pilgrim Holiness. Went there and went to the altar that night. Gave my heart to God. And I started trying. I started trying to be a good Christian, trying to Instead of being a hypocrite, I was repented. I was trying to do everything right and live a good Christian life and be what I was supposed to be. I knew what I was supposed to be. And I felt like I had a call to be a minister at that time. Everything was good. I quit hitchhiking home on weekends, going to church regular. I was actually praying and reading. I was doing what a Christian's supposed to do. I ended up meeting another girl from West Virginia. Me and her done things different. We didn't have sex. If we had a date, we had adult chaperones. We done things the way you were supposed to do it. Well, we had made plans that next year to get married. Well, meantime, the girl from Florida didn't like all this going on. She got mad and got jealous. She went to the school president and told him what me and her had done at the park, about the sex. You know, and he had no choice. He had to kick me out of school. He had no choice. That's part of having to pay for your past consequences. Well, I went back to North Vernon, back to my grandmother's house, and I done good for, it was about 4 or 5 months till school was going to be out. Stayed in contact with my fiance on the phone. Kept going to church with my grandmothers. I wasn't getting high and drinking. I was actually trying still, doing good. Got a call one day. My fiance had went home to West Virginia summer break and got killed in a car wreck by a drunk driver. So instead of me trusting God and let God handle it and holding God's hand, I went off the deep end. I got mad at God. I started hating God, His people, everything He stood for. Things got bad. I went downhill worse than I'd ever been. And it was getting worse and worse. So I'm going to say I'm back to my old ways. I ended up, a couple months later, I ended up joining the Indiana National Guard, which that was nothing but a party in itself. 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks in the summer, nothing but a party. They sent me down to Fort Benning, Georgia, to infantry school. Went down there and went through all that and breezed right through it. Back to North Vernon, working little piddly jobs, just doing whatever I had to, and still getting high and drinking a lot, getting into harder things a little bit here and there. Ended up switching over to full-time Army. They put me in an infantry unit, sent me over to a place called Heilbronn, Germany. I was attached to the 56th Field Artillery Brigade, and they put me in a place called 2nd of the 4th Infantry over there in Heilbronn, and my job was to guard nuclear missiles. So our job consisted of, we'd be up in a tower for 4 hours, and we'd get 2 off, and just done that constantly. So we'd be up there with live ammunition guarding these nuclear missiles, live nuclear missiles. Of course, we're getting high while we're doing this, and just, it was a mess. It is a mess. I don't see how nothing crazy never happens, you know, with all the people running that outfit. Anyway, that went on, and I wasn't homesick. It ain't that I wanted to come home, but I just wasn't doing good over there. Got into the hard drugs over there. Started drinking 10 times more than I ever did. Started running around some all kinds of different breeds of people. I ended up getting real prejudiced over there. Started getting in a lot of violent fights. Me and a few guys, well, the guys are in that picture. We would go downtown Germany at night when we had a night off. And we would go down just to start fights. It didn't matter if they was American, Germans, Turkish. And we started stealing, ripping the Turkish drug dealers off. So then every time we'd go back to town, we could always expect a good one. I had my throat cut over there. That should have killed me. God took care of me. Got real crazy over there one night. And I'm not glorifying none of this. Just trying to glorify God. Anyway, I got real crazy one night, and there was a little bitty bar. Real small. I mean, a fourth the size of this room. And it was in a dark alley and had a sign right on the door. Because they didn't like us over there in Germany because of the nuclear missiles. They didn't like us there at all. Had a little sign right on the door, no U.S. personnel allowed. So my buddies had went home. So, you know, I'd been doing this and that, and I had to go in. I had to. I went in, the last thing I remember, I got through out a back door and I was in an alley with, I don't know, 8 to 10 big guys. I was down and they was all around just brutally kicking me. And the last thing I remember, I'm crawling across the German Autobahn on my stomach covered in blood. I couldn't walk, couldn't do nothing, just crawl. A guy from my unit seen me, turned around and come back up, picked me up, and took me to the hospital. Well, got back to base, and that didn't go over real well. So they started watching me then. Of course, I kept getting in all kinds of different predicaments and doing stupid things, starting fights. It didn't matter. I didn't care what rank they were. I just didn't care. Didn't care about anything. They finally got tired of messing with me. They put me in some little rehab they had for a while. It was just a daily thing, and they didn't keep you. Put me on a drug called antabuse. And if you drink on the antabuse, it'd make you deathly sick. They say it was like a simulated heart attack. We drank on it anyway. One thing I ever really remember getting out of it was a bad headache. But anyway, they got tired of messing with me. They sent me home. They gave me a general discharge under honorable conditions. And they didn't have to do that. And that hurt me because I wasn't doing right over there, but I was a good soldier when it come to being a soldier. I just didn't have no respect. I come back to North Vernon, and boy, did I get in a mess then. It really started spiraling, going downhill. I ended up running around for a while. I had a little money saved. Didn't do much, just party. Acquired a job at the bar where my mom worked for all those years. They gave me a job as a doorman. The job consisted of breaking up fights and taking money at the door. $30 a day, a night, and all the free booze you could drink. So I thought I'd hit the lottery, you know. But then I started stealing from them. I would go home with a lot more than that. Never did get caught for it. Was stealing booze from them. They had no idea. Met a lot of women there. That's when my womanizing really started coming in. I had a lot of friends coming in, fair weather friends. I'd let them in free. They'd give me this and that, and a lot of drugs and all this and that. And instead of breaking up fights, I was the one starting the fights. So it wasn't a good thing. But God took care of me in that too. He had a plan for me through all these messes. I just never knew it. I stayed there I worked there for about 9 or 10 months, maybe a year. Left there and went to a place called Dolly Madison Bakery. Worked over there for about 6 years. I was a union rep. I worked on the loading dock and met a lot of people there. Started getting into a lot of dealing drugs and a lot of underhanded things, and had a real bad attitude there. They would fire people there for nothing, and I'd get their jobs back. The company hated me. They ended up giving me $5,000 to quit, which I couldn't believe. $5,000 to quit, and a letter of recommendation and a letter of termination. So I drew unemployment for a year after they gave me $5,000 to quit. So I hated that place. Got out of there. Started getting DUIs started coming into the picture. Went to a rehab up there called Koala Center in Columbus. Used to be there. I was still at the bakery then. I had real good insurance there. Stayed there for 37 days. And the only reason I even went there was to try to fool the judge, because I didn't have a license when I got my first DUI. I was 25. I never had a license. And it went over good with the judge. I had my license like a month later. And we can fool judges and everybody, and our family and our friends, but you can't fool God, you know what I mean? But I was always trying to get over on everybody else. And a lot of times it worked, but I never got over on God. Anyway, I got out of that Koala Center rehab after 37 days, and I managed to actually stay clean 92 days. I wasn't going to church, wasn't doing nothing. I stayed clean 92 days, but it didn't work. And you know why it didn't work? God was not in it. And I don't care how long you're in recovery, whatever you're doing, if God's not in it, it's not going to work. I promise you that. You may weasel along for a while, but it's going to fall through if God ain't in it. Well, after that incident, I got back to my old ways again and started working through some temp services, just whatever I had to do to survive, a couple of little construction jobs here and there. And one night, I went to a bar in Columbus, outside of Columbus. And in the back, they had a big parking lot that was grew up with weeds about 4 foot tall. Nobody ever parked there. And I'd been going to this place for several years, so, I knew nobody ever parked there. Behind it, like I say, behind was a parking lot, in front was the bar. To the left of the bar was another parking lot where people parked. I go in the bar that night, and I was already out of my mind. I shouldn't have been out of the house. But I go in that bar that night. As I walked in the side door and I looked in the back, because when I had so many enemies, whenever I went somewhere, especially a bar, I had to walk in and check it out quick. Not that I was a coward, but I just had that many enemies. Where I'd ripped people off and went out with their wives or just whatever. I had a lot of enemies, stole from them. I looked in the back when I walked in, and there's stepdad number 2. It made me happy. I was so full of hate from all my experiences growing up. I'd been looking for this guy for 12 or 13 years. So when I seen him back there, it made me happy. In a sick way, it made me happy. He didn't recognize me. So I told my friend, a couple of guys I was with, I said, I'll be back. They went and sat down. I went out the door, I came in, and waited on this guy. I don't know how long I waited. It might have been 15 minutes. It might have been 2 hours. But I waited. He came out the front door. Like I said, he didn't recognize me. And I'm not glorifying this, but I do believe in divine intervention. And I'm not proud of this. But I grabbed this guy up and I severely beat him. Grabbed him by the hair. Drug him out to that parking lot with the weeds. Had a buck knife to his throat. And I told him what I was going to do to him. I was going to get him and leave him lay. Guess what happened then? All these years where nobody ever parked back there, cars started pulling in. That was God. I couldn't believe it. So I threw him back down. I'll catch you later. I went back in. Come back out. I got ready to go home. A couple hours later, he was gone. I don't know whatever happened to him. But one good thing, too, after all the evil and all the stuff from those stepdads, and I got one more to talk about, too. I'm able to forgive them now. I've forgiven them. I pray for them every day. I would never run around with them. I don't want to be their best friend. But I can say that I do love them and I forgive them. And that's what we have to do. Have to love everybody. You don't have to be their best friend. But you got to love them. Anyway, thank God he took care of me on that, because I would have killed that guy that night. But God stopped me in my tracks, and I'm so thankful. But shortly after that, not sure exactly how long it was after that, I went to a good friend's house in North Vernon one night. Had a blind date. Had the blind date and done the second dumbest thing you never want to do in your life. Moved in the next day. Well, I was with this woman for off and on for 20 years. We was both in our mess, dealing drugs, drinking. Abuse. I never did hit a woman because I'd seen my mother go through that a lot. So that's one thing where I drew the line at. But, I would get physically abused. I did a lot of mental abuse, which is worse or just as bad as the physical abuse. I would get mad and tear the house up. I always said I wouldn't be like my stepdads, but I ended up just like them, or worse in a lot of ways. Anyway, like I say, I would stay there 2 or 3 months. I'd be gone. When I wasn't there, I'd be at a campground or a motel, living in a car, homeless somewhere, just doing whatever. Go back and forth, back and forth. And come to be about 2006, so-called friend of mine stole her pain medication one night when I was living there. So I got really drunk. The cops wouldn't do nothing. I got really drunk and went after this guy, and I was in a real bad state of mind that night and got an attempted murder charge in Crothersville. They took me to Brownstown for 8 or 9 days. Got out. Ended up getting it dropped down to intimidation with a deadly weapon, but it was a felony. So at 45, I got a felony. Hadn't had one before that. Had everything else but that. So that really put the hurt on me of getting any good jobs. That just flushed that right down. That's when I really started stealing and doing a lot of underhanded things just to survive. A lot of odd jobs, scrapping metal, dealing drugs. Any work I could get, I would do cheap. I would get to take. Somebody would normally pay you $500 to do, I'd do it for 50 just because I had to have money and that was all I could get. Anyway, that went on, and right after that, a few months later, actually my sister there ended up taking me to, used to be the town's house there in Scoutsburg. Everybody knows what that is. It was a halfway house. Went there and lived for a while. Got off the stuff for a while, stayed clean for 90 days, but again, it wasn't working. God wasn't in it. Fell back off, went to my old ways, went back to Crothersville to my ex-wife's house. Started getting very angry again and people and getting in fights and all this and that. And I was honestly afraid I was just going to hurt somebody at this point. So I went down to Wellstone, signed into that psych ward down there. Stayed there 10 days. They said I was, give me 2 or 3 different diagnoses, give me all these different pills and this and that. And so I stayed there 10 days, got out, threw the medicine away, and the medicine made me worse than what I was. Got out there, ended up meeting another woman in Little York. She was a good woman. I got out there, stole everything she had, mental abused, laying around drunk, wouldn't work. She had money and I took advantage of it. And I'm not proud of that. Started doing this and that and ended up running into my mom. I hadn't seen her in a little bit. Stepdad number 3 is in the picture now. Mom was dying. She had cancer, dementia, lupus, a couple other things. I'm not even sure what it was. Well, this guy has her living in a garage with a dirt floor. No running. I don't think there was running water. I think they had electric and that was it. And she's dying. So the woman I was with at the time was a real good woman. We ended up talking Mom into moving out there with us. It was a brand new home out there. Talked her into doing it. She came. She started doing better for a while. Mom always loved us, but she always put her men first. That's what I never understood. But anyway, she moved in with us and got her doctors arranged around here and everything she needed. She had her own room. We was taking good care of her. She was actually starting to progress, and she probably would have lived a few years longer. Anyway, this guy got really mad because I wouldn't sign a paper saying that I was taking my mom's Social Security check for payment to live with us. We wasn't charging her. Told her to save her money. We didn't want it. Well, he got mad because I wouldn't sign this paper because he wanted that money for his drugs and stuff, his booze, his toys. He got mad and moved her back in that garage. And I wasn't allowed over there this time. So 2 or 3 months went by. I'm not sure how long it was. It might have been 6 months. I got really drunk one day. I was just over it. I said, I'm going to go see my mom. He likes it or he don't like it. That was my plan. I knew I was going to go get in trouble is what I was going to do. I got my truck and I went over to North Vernon. Nobody around. Found out from a third party, Mom had been dead for 5 months. He wouldn't let her see me. She obeyed him like he was the king. You know what I'm saying? Wouldn't let her see me. After he moved her back in that garage, he couldn't handle all her medical conditions. So he put her in a nursing home somewhere over in North Vernon. She passed right after that real shortly, got cremated. So, there wasn't even a place to visit the grave. I lost it, guys. This is another thing of divine intervention. Out there where I lived at in Little York, lived on a corner. I had a big horseshoe driveway. One end went on one road, the other end went on another road. I was so out of my mind. I couldn't explain how out of my mind I was. I was mad, I was sad, I was just out there. I loaded up 2 handguns. And my mission was, I was driving to Country Squire Lakes, knock on his door. When he answered, empty them both. I didn't care if I was in such a state of mind. I didn't care if the cops came and shot me or took me. What happened? I did not care. As far as I was concerned, it was over. I'd had it up to here. I was done. I didn't care. I tried, contemplated suicide myself in my earlier days. I never had the guts to do it. But this right here just got me. And that's what I was going to do. I drove around that driveway. I don't know how long I drove around that driveway so out of my mind. God wouldn't let me leave that driveway. I don't know how many hours I drove around there. At some point, I passed out. Woke up the next day. That's all I could take. Come to my senses. I never did go back over there looking for him. I guess he moved. I heard he packed up and moved. So I don't know. But I thank God for that, because I know that was God. I know it was. Like I say, God had a plan. I was just too ignorant to know it. All the times God has done that. God has spared my life so many times. Anyway, after that, a couple months after that, I ended up going back to my ex-wives again. Things were good for a week or two, and it got worse than it ever was. We started fighting a lot, and that last night, it was June 2nd, 2018, Saturday night. I got really out of my mind. Stole her drugs, which didn't go over real well. But, up the last couple, I don't know, about the last month there, every time we'd get into it, we was getting into it a lot. I'd get drunk. She'd say, get out. I'd get drunk. She'd get out, get out. But the last few times this happened, I kept hearing a voice. And I thought I was just losing my mind and going crazy. And I'd hear this voice, go to Todd's place, go to Todd's place. Thinking, what's a Todd's place? I never heard of it. I just thought I was losing it. This kept happening. Like I say, that last night, June 2nd, 2018, I was told to get out again. I heard that voice. I guess I passed out. And normally when I passed out, I didn't remember much the next morning. I woke up bright and early that morning. Early. Remembered everything. Remembered that voice. Go to Todd's place. That's the first thing come to my mind as soon as I woke up. And like I say, I thought I was just going crazy. I hadn't prayed in years. I just said a short prayer. I said, God, if you want me to go to this Todd's place. I had a friend of mine up the street, Howard Womack, and I'd met him from court-ordered AA years before. I knew he still lived across town. Hadn't seen him in 2 or 3 years. Hadn't talked to him. I said, if you want me to go to this Todd's place, I said, let Howard take me. I got on the bicycle. Didn't have a license at the time. Didn't have a car at the time. Got on that bicycle, rode across town. It was about 4 or 5 blocks. Knocked on Howard's door. He wasn't home. I really thought, no, this ain't working. What am I doing here? You know what I mean? Went back a few minutes later, maybe 20 minutes later. Went back to Howard's. Nobody there. Thinking, man, I'm losing my mind. Crazy. What am I going to do here? Went back the third time. Same thing. Got about a block away, and I heard somebody holler, hey. And it was Howard. Thank God. I went back and I talked to Howard. Like I said, I was at my wit's end. I was tore up. I said, and told Howard what was going on. I said, do you know about this Todd's place? He said, yeah. I said, well, I need to go there. Will you take me if I give you some gas money? He said, yeah. He said, I'll come get you in about 20 minutes. So I grabbed what few clothes I had, threw them in a trash bag. He showed up. He took me over there. He knew the people that runned it. He knew everybody there. They was wanting like $100 or $150 to get in. I might have had $30 if I was lucky. They took me in without having to give them anything. They took me in, and Howard left. They took me back to this little room. Told me that's where I'd be sleeping. Went in there, and I tell you what, I started shaking and crying, sweating, just freaking out. I hit my knees. I said, God, I don't know what to do. I said, I'm sorry, I do not know what to do. And I felt a little relieved. That was just the beginning. A couple hours later, a couple young guys come up to me. They said, we're going to go to the Rock tonight. Would you like to go? Thinking, what's a Rock? You know, I mean, I never heard of it. I said, Celebrate Recovery. I said, I never heard of it. I said, yeah, I might as well go. So it came that time, we got on the van and went, and I'm so thankful that I went. I got in there, and it scared me at first. Everybody come up hugging me, loving on me. It scared me. I wasn't used to all that. I mean, they took me in, they loved me, and it was like, man, they prayed with me. I was a broken man that night, wasn't I, Paul? And thank God for Pastor Paul, Brian, Becky. There's about 6 more that ain't here tonight, but they was all there that night. And I'm so thankful. Thank them for what they've done. They was obedient to God and done what we're supposed to do with people. I talked to a couple of the others today. I talked to a couple others that ain't here tonight today, and I thanked them. I got to thank John Lowry before he passed, because if they wouldn't have done what they done, the way they treated me that night, I probably wouldn't be here right now. It's just the way it is. But God had a plan, and I know that now. So I'm just thank God, and I can honestly say, since all this has happened, not one time since I gave my heart to God have I had the first craving or desire to go back to any of that mess. God took it all and turned it. I just never wanted. A lot of people can't say that. You know, a lot of people, when they get off that stuff, they think about it all the time. It drives them nuts. God took all that away from me, and I'm very, very grateful. And we can't do it our own strength. There ain't no way. Without God, we're not doing it. And I know I am far from perfect. I'm a work in progress. But I give God all the glory for that. So, and every Sunday at church for years, I had people pray for me about restoring my family in a good way. Not a jail visit, not a funeral, but in a good way. Please, Lord, restore it. He's done that. He's done that. One of them's here right now. I'm so thankful. Blessed me with a beautiful wife. I'm so thankful for her. She keeps me in check. Like I say, I'm not perfect. But I want to say to the people at home out there, if he can do it for me, he can do it for any of you. He's just a prayer away. So just keep that in mind. And for the ones that are still in recovery, for the ones that are struggling, don't give up. Keep pressing on. Get as close to Jesus as you can. That's what it's all about. Over here it says, Isaiah 40, 29, 30, and 31, he gives power to the weak and strength to the powerless. Even youths will become weak and tired, and young men will fall in exhaustion. But those who trust in the Lord will find new strength. They will soar high on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not faint. And right across the page here, Isaiah 41:10. Don't be afraid, for I am with you. Don't be discouraged, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will hold you up with my victorious right hand. That's very true. Yeah, I just can't thank God enough for all the stuff he's done. This September, and this is sad, I'm 63 years old, but this September 25th will be the longest that I've ever had the same job in my whole life. And it'll be 8 years for that job. That's sad for a guy my age. I should have had 30 in somewhere, you know what I'm saying? But it's all good. Been a blessing. Like I say, there's nothing to go back to, and I wouldn't trade it for $20 million. I'd laugh at them, you know what? And I love all you guys, and I appreciate you coming out.